Yeah, hi there. Good morning, Kelvin MacKenzie. Plenty happening out there. The thing that caught my eye this morning, look, I used to run the Sun when it was enormously profitable, enormously successful. And actually the words the Sun still instill a sense of love on my side and probably great distrust on various parts of the country, but also great love, great love. Now, what made me feel slightly ill this morning was the fact that on the Rod Liddle. Look, Rod Liddle was a great guy, very interesting man, enjoyed his drink, enjoyed his cigarettes, he enjoyed his talent. He was not the same as the person that you see dishing out tickets in railway car parks, which is the bane of my life. However, the Sun kept him on a very tight leash. They no more believe in free speech than they believe that the moon is made of a rather attractive cheese. Okay, so they didn't want the problems with our chums at Islam, and nor did they want the problem with their chums at trans, right? They didn't want those two subject matters. You know why? Well, they didn't want them because they felt that the advertising community might not like the debate. And what might they do? You're right. They might well pull their advertising. Now, when I ran the joint under the aegis of Rupert Murdoch, who knows a thing or two about counting pennies, the money coming from the circulation, i.e. what you paid for it, was higher than the amount paid by the advertisers. Okay? Now, very nice to be able to butter your toast both sides, but the reality was better to stick with the high numbers of the sales, which is why you had all this sex stuff and all this kind of stuff, other stuff, right? Because I know it comes as a shock to you, but famous people making love to women, by and large, who they are not married to, turns out to be an enormous circulation winner. Who knew? Who knew? Anyway, so circulation's up there, advertising revenue is down here, okay? Now, as time went on, thanks to a number of decisions made by a kind of half-witted management, nodded through by Rupert Murdoch, who was making so much money out of Fox News, he doesn't give a stuff what happens in the UK, right? It suddenly goes the other way. The advertising dollar is higher than the circulation dollar. And on hearing that noise, I refuse point blank to compete with the fact that I am now, and there are parts of the country who'd be very pleased about this, are going to die in a fire, okay? I'm not quite sure how long it lasts for, and actually, whether it actually achieves anything. Has there ever been a fire in this building? No, therefore the alarm's working. Anyway, so, okay, up there, circulation revenues, down there, advertising revenues. As time goes on, and thanks to some incompetence by the management, by the way, overseen by Murdoch, who, as I said earlier, doesn't give a stuff about the revenues over here because the money being made by Fox, a monopoly, is off the scale. So when it goes like that, suddenly the advertising manager is a guy who basically you slid the food under the door to, right? Never allowed him out because he was of no consequence at the Sun, right? Suddenly becomes enormously powerful. Not only to become enormously powerful, the sales director actually becomes the CEO of the Sun. And that was the end of that. Circulation collapses, advertising revenue collapses, he gets promoted. Unbelievable. We should all have such a job. My bet probably makes $750,000 a year plus bonuses. Honestly, he's not pushing a broom outside Aldi's, that's for sure. And then you end up with this. So they try. So the only reason that the only reason that Rod Liddle was kept on is the following. So he starts in, I think, 2005, a column with the Sunday Times. It never sat easily with them. They thought it was too controversial and all the rest of it. And then along comes a lady called, I think, Emma Tucker. She takes over as the editor of the Sunday Times. The first thing she tries to do is fire Liddell for being too white and too right. Actually, he wasn't really right. He was white. Yeah, you got that right. He wasn't really right at all. He was a kind of controversialist, right? A clever guy, okay? A clever guy who liked to drink, he liked to smoke. He was the guy you meet down the pub, except he had a very large kind of academic brain to go with it. It was an interesting combo of a person. Anyway, she tried to have him fired. Oh, she'd only been through the door about 30 seconds. Boom, she tried to kick him out. Murdoch wasn't having it. Murdoch said, no, we should keep him on. And that's what they did. So he worked there from 2005, I think, to 2000, and as obviously until 26, which is a good run in our game. To be honest, if you last more than 20 seconds anywhere in the media, you've done rather well, right? You're certainly not the manager of the NatWest in Pudsey, that's for sure. Anyway, Murdoch says you're not going anywhere. Not only does Murdoch say you're not going anywhere, he then gets a column in The Sun and now does a show, I think, for Times Radio. And he's so part of the kind of friendship establishment that exists in the media. I saw him even giving paper reviews on Sky. So I just thought I'd explain to you. They didn't acknowledge Rod Liddell at all, right? He was considered, beneath the salt. He dies though, and then suddenly it's all over the front page because in the media establishment, Liddell was considered, first of all, an outsider, and then as years went on, much of what he said seemed to strike a chord, and therefore he became an insider in the media. And then you end up with a line on page 1 describing him, because he's just died at 66, a caustic but crucial voice on the madness that is modern Britain. Well, actually, one of the madnesses is that a popular tabloid newspaper didn't want to have a bar of him while he was alive. For God's sake, don't mention the Muslims. Please. He's mentioned them again. Oh, no. Call Sainsbury's. Pull their advertising. Anyway, getting a bit carried away there. That's the reality, though. So, the media is like the rest of us. They're a bunch of hypocrites. And that was a kind of encasement of its hypocrisy. All we need now is Emma Tucker to say how sad she was that he's died, and I'll have done it. I would have completed the unique double. But anyway, look, that's the way it all is. That's the reality of it all, and you just have to get on with it. Or you could sit there and be like me, shouting and railing at the moon every day. But more importantly, we've got the voice of reason in here. This is how bad it is here. The voice of reason. An expression never, ever used about Mike Graham, right? Okay, the voice of very little reason, but it's always good to see you, Mike.
Very good to see you. I was over in that way yesterday, actually,
really?
Talking to some old chums about Mr. Liddell.
Yeah.
And interesting enough, because one of the things that I was quite not shocked to see was that one of the people lauding him was Robert Thompson, who, of course, is CEO of News Corp in the USA, which tells you how high up Rod Liddell's kind of admiration club went, because that's not small potatoes, as you know.
Are you suggesting that on your demise or the mine, that Robert Thompson, as you point out, the chief, I was going to add an epithet there, but would actually might say something generous towards you?
He never has done, to my knowledge. Although I was led to believe that the words were spoken about me at quite a high level before they decided to.
What kind of words, though?
Well, I think. How do you think we're going to do without him?
That's the best line, isn't it? That's one of the great lines. He said, when somebody says to you, when you say to a colleague, "How long have you been here now?"
Yeah.
And they say, "I've been here 18 years, Mike." He said, "Well, we're just going to have to see how we get on without you.
I actually used that quote at the weekend. My son had a bit of a dust up with his girlfriend, and it's all over. And so I said to him, well, we're just going to see how we get along without you. And, it's one of the great levelers, isn't it?
Anyway, I have been told.
Yeah.
I have been told.
What about this, by the way?
What is it?
This is a Chagos Islands flag, which was presented to me today by Vanessa Mandarin, who is Misley Mandarin's sister. Misley Mandarin, of course, being the guy who's occupying the Chagos Islands as the First Minister. And we've come up with a great plan. Pooch and I are going to present a concert for the Chagos Islands to raise money to make them... No, what do you think?
I love a concert.
A concert for the Chagos. It's got a good ring to it, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah. No,
I love it.
that is a very good idea.
He's going to put it on. We're going to do it.
You're going to sing?
I can sing. I'm not bad at singing, actually.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Well, give us a go then. Give us a go. So that we can know whether it's going to be
You want me to sing? You actually want me to sing?
I do. I want you to sing.
I'll do this. A long, long time ago, I can still remember how the music used to make me smile. And I knew if I had a chance, I could make those people dance, and maybe they'd be happy for a while. Good enough?
Oh, bloody marvellous.
Hey?
So, I'll tell you what, why don't we keep that going for the show?
February made me...
Go on, carry on.
February made me shiver. February made me shiver. With all the bad news I delivered. Bad news on the doorstep. I couldn't take one more step. I can't remember if I cried when I learned about the widowed bride. But someone touched me deep inside the day the music died.
Who's it about,
Yeah,
Kelvin?
I like that.
Kelvin, who's that song about?
It's about
Buddy Holly, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, that's right. It
Buddy
is.
Holly.
I've forgotten. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Jolly good. Well,
Don
I'll tell you
McLean.
what. That was a darn sight more interesting than my bloody rant about Rod Liddell. That's for sure. Anyway, Rod, you're still making the headlines.
He is. Do you know one
and-
of the things he said about the Muslims was he said we should have elections on Muslim holy days so they don't go out and vote.
Okay. So I'm in Turkey. I'm in Turkey during Ramadan.
Right.
I'm in Bodrum in
Yeah.
Turkey in Ramadan.
Right.
And I did say to my wife that I said we should go to McDonald's to be the shortest queue in history, right? Anyway, she took exception to that. So anyway, I ended up.
It's not a bad shout though.
Yeah.
No, exactly.
I mean,
that's the time to go. It was
Yeah.
deserted.
Right.
The hotel was deserted.
Yeah.
We got upgraded to a suite with its own pool.
Very nice.
Right? Because there was nobody there. Anyway, people tell me,
Yeah.
i.e. Pooch, people tell me, getting a good hello here. People tell me that you have been having a discussion.
Yes.
With Mr. Dan Wotton of
Yeah,
this parish.
we did.
Not of this parish, but actually
Yeah.
he should come and do a show here. He'd get a decent audience.
He would.
And what was his view? Did you take exception to his view?
Not particularly, but
Yeah.
but he sort of has accused me in the past of being too pro-reform, and
Oh,
I
right.
accuse him of being too pro-restore.
Yeah, okay,
But he
right.
did an interview with Rupert Lowe last night. You've interviewed Rupert Lowe in the past.
Yeah. I didn't really interview him. What happened was I asked him a question,
Yeah,
and then an hour later,
Yeah.
he had a sip of water.
Well, this is the trouble. This is the trouble. I'm not a fan of Rupert Lowe. I make no secret of that. I think he's thin-skinned. I think he's arrogant, and I think he's trouble, frankly. However, there are people that support him, and I just said to Dan interviewed him, and I just sort of wanted to poke a few holes in some of the things that he said. For example, there's a story going around that he's fallen out with the Tories, right? And he'd done
you
this
told me
deal
that.
with them, right? So when Dan asked him about it, he said, "Oh no, I haven't fallen out with him. Everything's fine with the Tories."
Yeah.
I said, "Well, you can look at that another way." So I said, "So he's basically still got to deal with the Tories then, has he? Is that what you're saying?"
Yeah.
And he didn't quite know where to go with that.
Yeah.
But he is very, very keen on the fact that Nigel Farage, as far as he's concerned, seems to have slightly moved his position, and he's no longer ignoring Rupert Lowe. He's now acknowledging sort of his existence, and is willing to possibly entertain the idea that, you know, Restore could be a problem, and he has to do something about it. And I think he's right about that. You know, the position has kind of moved.
What can you do? Because I mean, there were a couple of things that were quite interesting. Jenrick gets the bullet.
Right.
What's her name gets the bullet.
Well, that's not going to happen, is it? I mean,
so is the suggestion that there could be an accommodation of some kind.
Yes, I think the view is certainly from the Wotton camp
Yeah.
is that this is the beginning of a conversation.
Yeah, a dance.
Which it may well be.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't see any way that Farage and Rupert Lowe can operate in the same arena, really. But there may be some accommodation that can be made. I don't know what that would be. You know, I think Rupert
Very
Lowe's
tough,
a problem. I mean, he's you know, it's like when you've had people working for you, I'm sure, in the past where you go, this guy's a problem. And in the end, all you can do is get rid of him.
Yeah, that's
because
true.
he's just going to be a pain in the arse.
Yeah, that's where politics is different. Your enemy is walking past you every day, and it's a very uncomfortable feeling, which I imagine is what the Starmer camp are doing now.
Yes,
they're regrouping, going away for the summer, and then when they come back, not at first because they don't want to just be seen as recalcitrants. But waiting for a subject matter.
Well,
right,
I mean, isn't it interesting that you know, if it was 6 or 7 months ago, Rupert Lowe would have been completely ignored by Farage. But because Farage is now not in quite such a good place, he has to kind of take
Hold on a second.
take note of it.
Hold on a second.
What's he doing? What are you doing down there?
This light is shining your face.
This is actually used as a porn show.
That was quite unsettling. That
Yeah, that's right. Well, actually,
Pooch.
We have ways of making you talk.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I need to.
Crikey.
There you go.
All right. There you go.
Then can I just say, this is when you know that this is the home of free speech because
and common sense.
Yeah, and physicality.
Yeah.
So Dan Wotton seems to be doing well.
He's doing very well.
Yeah, he's doing almost as well as you.
Yeah, he is. And the thing I like about Dan Wotton is he and I kind of are like bookends in the day. You know, he does his show in the afternoon, I do mine in the morning.
What time does he do his show?
His is about 5:30.
Okay, fine.
And you know, it's slightly different audience, but a bit of crossover.
Yeah.
And I believe that if he and I can do things together,
it's mutually helpful.
It's mutually, absolutely.
Okay, fine.
Absolutely.
So, do you think that in some ways the row surrounding Farage, I think in the end it's going to be, there will be an uncomfortable verdict and all this.
Yeah.
And the one I fear is like 90 days.
Yeah, I know.
Right. I just don't think it's going to be a 7 or a 10-day jobby. But I know that Farage himself is actually taking advice from lots of different areas, which is a surprise to me, to be honest, because you would have thought he couldn't deal with any more advice.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine what it looks like, what it feels like within. Within the
I think it must be
reform
very
area.
difficult, because what was interesting yesterday was, you know, I had Richard Tice on at 7 o'clock in the morning, and his basic kind of answer to the Rupert Lowe situation was thanks but no thanks.
Yeah.
That was a pretty clear message. He was like, you know, of course we're going to welcome any suggestions, blah, blah, blah. But you know, suddenly by the time the press conference happened, Zia Yusuf had kind of said, well, you know, we're willing to talk to anyone.
Yeah.
And then suddenly Nigel Farage came out and said, well, I've made a call.
Yeah.
So it's like they're not all talking the same language.
No.
So there's no kind of
No.
common thread.
No, but
which is never a good thing.
The other thing I didn't like was, and this must have come fairly high up from the reform people, is that the amount of information that particularly the Times group, Times and Sunday Times, are running about reform. They said, we have a rat at the top. Now, the rat, such as it, I'm not sure there's a correct description of it, could be the treasurer who sat there and negotiated the deals among them all. I mean, I presume he can hand out all his details on it. Would they believe that there is somebody supplying information?
But they've also said in the past that they thought that some of the information came from a hack, didn't they? They said that, you know,
correct. The 5 million.
Yeah.
The 5 million will have come,
So are they
if
now
not
saying,
from the Russians, from somebody like that.
But surely if they're saying there's a leak at the top, surely the 5 million leak could have come from there, couldn't it? Wouldn't you think?
I would have thought that these clever hackers can get into your account and they can work out. So somebody got into my account and actually wrote a note to my PA in the way that I write my notes. Right?
Rude.
Wow.
No, no, actually.
That's extraordinary.
Yeah, so they
Really?
copied it. So when she got send this money to Dubai.
Right.
Because of the way it was signed, even although it was a large amount of money, even because it was signed in the way that she understood it, right? And I was only saved by my bank calling up, saying, just checking, because of these large amounts, we always check, is this kosher?
Wow.
And I said, no, it isn't.
Wow.
And then
how did you protect the? Well, you can't tell me obviously, but you then had to protect the account in another way.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, I'm not sure who the treasurer is. The treasurer was for a while Nick Candy.
Yeah.
Oh, but it wouldn't be him, would it?
Before that.
Before that,
Yeah.
I find it hard to believe that somebody would leak that kind of information to a newspaper. I just don't understand why they would.
No, the 5 million, absolutely. Right. Russia does it, boom, that's the whole point of doing it. But there will be other people working. And I wonder whether there are people at the top who are keeping enormously quiet at the moment, but are unhappy at watching what they thought was a glittering political career literally exploding underneath them.
Well, it is.
Because at one moment, I'm the Prime Minister,
it was only a few months ago he was a shoo-in, wasn't he?
Yeah, I thought actually he would be. I thought he'd win.
Yeah.
And I thought he'd win alongside the Tories.
Yeah.
And I thought that would be fine.
Yeah.
And everything will be great.
Yeah.
Now you're saying to yourself the most likely outcome is a Labour coalition. This is now. We've got 3 years to go.
Some time to go.
Okay.
Do you know what I said to Pooch this morning? And I think this is a truism. Okay. I noticed that Nigel Farage started to look a bit different when that 5 million, when you look back to when the 5 million came in.
Do you mean he looks older, you mean?
No, I mean he looks richer. He looks now like a rich guy.
He looks like...
See, he used to, I know Farage as you do, probably from old, when he used to come into James Wells' show.
Yeah, correct.
Right? And he used to come in.
One of the few guys
on
that gave him
the old Hatfields, office that we had near Waterloo.
Yeah.
And he would come in and we had a fire escape. We'd go out and have a fag. And he was in his barber, and he would have sort of a tweed jacket sometimes, and he looked like a sort of country gent from a nice pub in Kent.
Yeah.
Now he's looking like he's got the permatan, he's got this very expensive suit on, he's in and out of helicopters and private jets, and he's just got a different look. And I wonder whether that has kind of done for him in a way, because people look at him now and go, "Well, you look like a millionaire." And he wasn't a millionaire before, and now he is. And
well, mind you, I would say that Burnham looks like a wealthy middle classes.
He does.
I mean, he keeps himself in good nick.
Yeah, he does, but he doesn't quite look like the guy who's getting on a private jet. Maybe he will.
No, hold on. He got on a private jet to Manchester only last week.
Yeah, no, I know, but he hasn't got. Do you know what I mean? He hasn't got that look yet.
Taxpayers died.
Yeah. You and I paid for that.
Yes, I know, and it's obviously a disgrace. Although going back to your, I'm in favour, as I am with presidents, I am in favour of our prime ministers being relaxed. I hate the idea. I don't know about
you. Shouldn't be going on holiday though.
Sorry, your mic just died, Kelvin.
Pardon?
Your mic just died.
Okay, fine. I don't mind going on holiday. I don't mind them playing golf. I don't mind them playing tennis. I like seeing them running. To make good decisions, you need to be relaxed. And I know when you feel under stress, when you feel that the whole world is at you, right? You make some shocking. Look, I don't need much help to make a shocking decision, right? I only need to be tired, irritated, with a bit of alcohol inside me. So I'm in favour of him. I think Reagan was a great one, but also some of the American presidents.
Yeah.
They get out to Camp David, they play golf, and all the rest of it. Mind you, I did laugh the other day. There were two things that cheered me up about America. One, in Miami, they executed 2 killers on the same day.
Excellent.
Right.
Cheery.
That's
right.
Good. Yeah.
I'm massively in favour of that. Right.
Do you know when they do it as well, right? Because I lived through those times in the 80s when they were killing quite a lot of people in Florida. And they'd have like tailgate parties outside the prison.
Yeah.
People would turn up and they start having barbecues. Yeah. I think when they killed Ted Bundy, it was a Bundy barbecue, they called it. People were turning up, put the old tailgate down.
Some of the ways these people have been killed, they don't have the right any longer to be. And to be honest, this happened in the 80s, right? So 40 years later.
Yeah.
And the other thing that made me laugh was Trump winning the golf.
Yes.
And did you see his note afterwards saying that the reason he won is because he was great and they were talentless? I thought, give us a break.
Right.
And can you imagine? Right in the bag. I think there are 13 clubs in the bag.
Yeah.
I think and I remember one very great. I think he ran Sarchi's, right. Said to me once in a game, I was hopeless at golf. Right. He said again. He
I
said,
played with you. I know you were.
right. He said, hold on a second. I won the News of the World
We
Cup.
played in when we went down to south of France when you got me into terrible trouble. Do you remember? And you and I played with Martin Dunn and Nick Lloyd.
Yeah.
In was it Hard? What was the
Oh
name
yeah,
of the
there was a
place?
nice place down that
Yeah,
way.
down in
Nick Lloyd's club actually.
yeah, it was Nick Lloyd's club, and we went to Tim and Wendy's Tim Miles and Wendy Henry's 25th wedding anniversary, and he made me tell a story which I shouldn't have told. It was the dog story, yeah.
I love it.
You want to hear it again?
Yeah, tell it again.
And I told him this as we were going around the golf course, right? And I said, I can't tell this story at the do. He's like, no. He said, no, absolutely, you can't tell it. And then suddenly, in the middle of the do, after everybody's sort of, had their dinner and whatever, he goes, oh, Mike Graham's got a story. Makes me get up to tell the story of how Tim and when they'd loved dogs all their lives, right?
Right.
And they'd gone on holiday to Greece or something, and they'd seen this stray dog, loved it, fall in love with it. When you're in this little town,
Yeah.
and every day the dog would come, and every day they'd feed the dog, and then by the end of the holiday, the dog's like staying in the house and all that. And they get back to Britain, and Wendy says, I really miss that dog, Tim. And he went, yeah, I really miss it as well. What do you think? And she went, well, can you not go back and get the dog, and bring it here? And he went, yeah, it's a good idea. So he decides he drives all the way to Greece because he's like, well, I'm going to just smuggle it in. Because they're never going to get it in.
Yeah, they're going to
amazing
allow it on the
thing,
plane.
right?
No.
So he drives all the way to Greece, and goes back to the same place, spends about 2 days, finds the dog, which is a stray dog, finds it, gets it in the car, takes it all the way back to Calais, and has to hide it in the boot of the car to get it through customs so nobody sees it, right? Gets it back to where they were living in Islington at the time. And Kevin O'Sullivan, our mutual friend, who's a big friend of theirs as well, was very excited by this whole thing. And he'd rung them up and said, oh, great, have you got the dog? He said, yeah, they got the dog. He said, Tim's just at the doctor's with it now. He's just getting its shots, to make sure it's all kosher. He went, oh, great. He said, I'll give you a call later. I'll come around later, see the dog. And about 2 hours later, and it was pouring with rain. It was one of those horrible, wet winter nights. And Kevin rings up and he gets Wendy. And he goes, how's everything going with the dog? And she goes, Tim's out in the garden burying it. And as I'm telling this story, right, the whole room has gone completely silent, and all I can see is Kelvin's shoulders shaking like this, right? But you can't laugh because nobody else is laughing. And I suddenly realised this is a terrible story. And Wendy's looking at me like, what the hell is wrong with you, right? And I've got my partner sitting there next to me looking at me like this, going, oh my God. And anyway, so the dog, apparently, they got it back from the vets. It dropped dead. And so he's burying it in the garden. And anyway, to finish the story, and Wendy's, sort of everything kind of broke up. Wendy's brother comes over to me and goes, nice fucking story, And I'm like... And then Wendy came over to me and she said, I have had worse things happen to me. I've had a couple of miscarriages. And I'm like, boy, it was the absolute nightmare. And it was all your fault that I told the story.
I tell you what, I can remember that.
Do you remember that?
And I tell you what,
It was
I also
horrendous.
remember about it.
It was horrendous.
Right, so this had been a quite nice, really enjoyable party.
Right.
South of France, lovely house.
Ferrari was there.
Yeah, everybody was there, right? And then, as Mike told the story...
St. Paul de Vence was the place, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, it's near there,
there,
actually. Yeah, actually, it went quieter. And I'm thinking, and I am pissing myself, right? Because as Mike being an entertainer, He tries to put more energy into it. I know what the outcome is. The dog has died. And my feeling about this was, what on earth is going to be the punchline that is supposed to make us all relax? And there was no good news.
Right.
It's a bit like when a Labour government is elected.
Right.
There is no good news.
The worst thing was because as I told it to you there, the same as I told it then, I couldn't stop laughing. And of course, everybody else thought that was the worst thing that ever happened. Why is he laughing?
There was
tragic story.
The clever ones would have thought there's a great gag at the end of this. The dog gets up and wins the Greyhound Derby or something. Instead of that, he died. Right, Mike, that is the best 30 minutes and 44 seconds in the history of broadcasting. That was bloody funny. Dog died. Mike Graham has to leave very quietly. You always get a straight red from the girlfriend or the wife. Straight boom.
Oh yeah, she's never gotten over it.
You're right out the door.
Yeah.
And it can be.
She was mortified. Absolutely mortified.
Are you still with her?
No.
Oh right, okay.
I bet
Fine.
she's never mentioned it since, though, Mike.
Well, she's never mentioned it because she gave him the elbow. I mean, last thing you want is a not funny anecdote teller, don't you?
Yeah.
Right. He starts a story in 2023 and ends it in 2027.
True.
Right. I've got to go. There's been a guest very
I've got to
loyal.
go.
I've forgotten who it is.
Yeah. I'm off.
Oh yes. Hi. Shall we say hello?
Yes.
Hi there. Sorry about all this. I can't hear you, so.
Callum, so I thought you said Carol Smiley.
Can anybody? I haven't got an earpiece. Oh yeah, I have got an earpiece. I'm so sorry. Any minute now, things will go back to being used to. I've just been told a terrible anecdote. How are you, Callum?
I'm very
Callum?
well. How are you?
Yeah, right. You're looking well, by the way. You're looking a lot better than Mike Graham, who's a shocking advert for humanity, that bloke. He tells stories about dead dogs and thinks he can raise a laugh. He's a bloody idiot, that man. Right, Callum, tell me, where are you now?
Ceuta, the Spanish enclave in North Africa.
Okay, question. First of all, what are you doing there? You seem to be the only white person that I've seen in connection with Ceuta in the many hours of filming I've seen on the BBC, who seem to quite enjoy feeling sorry for everybody. I mean, how big is Ceuta, by the way? It's a minute sliver of land, isn't it?
It really is a very small part of the northern tip of North Africa, bordering with Morocco. I mean, we're staying in like the town centre area, which, if you look on the map, it's where like it goes into a small peninsula off that sort of area, and you can walk from there down to the border in 45 minutes, and that's just walking. So it's very small.
Do you see? Right. So the numbers I read was 60,000 came in, 48,000 walked out. It's not unusual for Morocco to use its people as a form of political advancement, is it? So is it true that 12,000 of those 60,000 are still there, or have they now all gone back?
Well, I can tell with my own eyes
Yeah.
that there are thousands still here. I was speaking to there's a little area called Principe, which is near the Tarajal crossing, so which is where you've seen all the videos of them coming through the border and swimming around the seawall.
Yeah.
He lives in that area, and that's like one of the rough areas. And he says that area at night is full. I mean, he sent me a video last night, which we put on our Vox Populi page, of literally the migrants fighting each other down below his flat. And he says that local estimates are around 20,000 are still here. And from what I've seen in just like the southern part of it, I think that's probably about right. We're going to be heading up to the northern part of it later on. There's a place called Ceti, so CETI, which is their migrant processing facility, which doesn't actually house that many. And there's videos of people in the thousands fighting there over the limited resources that are available to them. So it's, the BBC, they're talking out their arse.
Right. Okay. Well, that's why we pay £185, because it's quite an interesting kind of that would be great, wouldn't it? To start the BBC News, and tonight talking even larger out of their arse than normal, the BBC in Soweto. Okay, issues. Are they ever going to go back? Or are the next time we see them, we'll be wandering down the Old Kent Road looking for a home?
Well, I think both things. Yeah, they'll be going down Old Kent Road looking for a new home, and also I don't think they'll be going back. I think a lot of them will also want to stay here as well. It's when I was the night, so I couldn't get any accommodation over here on the Sunday night, so we stayed in Algeciras, which is where there is only one port crossing, as in official boats, which is Algeciras to Ceuta, Spain to Spain. And the night before we came here, a few dinghies actually made their way over.
How far is that? How far is that, Callum?
14 kilometres, the shortest stretch. So it's a lot easier than going from Calais to England.
Really?
So and also it's warm water as well. So, if you were to go overboard, you're not going to die in these waters. I mean, I had a bit of a dip in the beach yesterday, and it's lovely.
So, how is this to be resolved? I read a rather good editorial in the Times this morning saying that this is the normal way that Morocco deals with a problem, to the point where if they think that somebody, the Spanish Prime Minister, is getting too friendly with Algeria, suddenly something like this is likely to happen. How bad is the economy in Morocco? I mean, they were shouting a lot about wanting jobs and everything. Is there any work in Morocco? Is there any wealth in Morocco? Is there any hope in Morocco? And are we actually going to wake up one day to find out that it's not 60,000 that have gone in there, but it's 600,000?
Well, I mean, there is wealth if you are part of the elite class. I mean, the current Republican House of Representatives has just signed over a $40 million bill giving the Moroccans all that money.
Right.
So, for a few people, there's a lot of money. But talking to a lot, that's the weird thing as well, actually. So when I've gone to Calais, you actually find a lot of migrants, they don't want to talk to you because they kind of know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Here, they're very open. They'll tell you exactly, why. And yeah, they were saying that it is dangerous in Morocco. There's not much work. There's not much prosperity. I mean, I still don't think they should just be able to walk into mainland Europe. But here, yeah, there are a lot of violent ones that have come over. And you can see a lot of videos of that. But there's a large number of, they're just chancers. They want what we have. Now, that's not me advocating for it before anyone says that I've gone a bit left wing. But a lot of them they just want, the riches of Europe. So will they manage to resolve it? And possibly. I mean, this has happened before in 2021. 8,000 crossed over, and in 2 days, with the help of the army, they did manage to move them out. And the army are actually doing. You see often trucks go along, and they're rounding them up, picking them up. And
you mean the Spanish army? You mean the Spanish army? Yeah.
The Spanish army are picking them up, working with the police. The Spanish army actually they're actually very friendly and approachable. The Spanish police not so much. We had a bit of a problem with them yesterday because we're not accredited and didn't ask permission to film here, which raises the question: why don't you want people filming here? What are you hiding? So I think temporarily, yeah, they can clear them all out. I feel like they should have managed to have done it by now, because often you see them dispersing them away from the touristy areas rather than just picking up there and taking them away.
Is there tourism area in Soweto? In however it's pronounced, is there a tourism area?
Soweto, it's a gorgeous place. Right. I mean, I was speaking to a friend actually who said he came over here a few decades ago with his wife, and it's beautiful. I mean, I would recommend visiting it, or rather, you can see it was beautiful, because obviously it is now. It's starting to become a bit like every other European city, where it's just full of people people who don't really add much value.
Right.
Yeah, it's an interesting place.
So, how long are you going to stay there, Callum?
We'll be heading back to Gibraltar tomorrow afternoon.
How long does that take you? And how do you easily get there? You just simply take the ferry back over and then head to Gibraltar
Ferry
and then fly home.
Drive to Gibraltar.
But isn't the reality of it all two things? Morocco use their people to make political points. And that Spain itself has decided that it's a vast arid desert, actually, a lot of the time, and that they might as well fill it up with people. And they might as well fill it up with people from Morocco or Algeria or somewhere. They don't seem to really care. This Prime Minister doesn't really seem to care. And nor does he care that actually that nobody wants to stay in Spain. They all want to head to England. Isn't that the reality?
I think there is definitely an element of truth in that. I mean, one thing that they do care about is these two Spanish enclaves of Ceuta and Melilla. They do not want to give these up whatsoever. It's interesting, you often see Moroccans saying, "Oh no, but this is Moroccan land." It's like, hold on, Morocco's only been a country since '56. Ceuta's been around a lot longer than Morocco has, so it's never been yours. It's almost like the Falklands argument where Argentina say, "We want it back." It's like, well, you can't have something back that you've never had. But the Moroccans, they're pushing hard for it. They make no secret of the fact they want full autonomy of the North African coastline, and that is around Morocco.
Okay, Callum, thank you very much. Thank you very much for being our reporter on the spot, actually, because your analysis of it is obviously the accurate one. The other one is taking into account, we don't want to upset Morocco, we don't want to upset Spain, we don't want to upset anybody. You just tell it as it is. That's great. Great to hear from you, Callum. Keep it up, man. Cheers. Right, joining me now in what has been that was a fantastic story by Mike Graham, by the way. I remember that. I have never laughed so much in my life. I enjoyed the fact that story was told, whereas I knew what the ending was, and that there was no high point to this anecdote. There was only a lower point. And I am listening to the whole place going quieter and quieter, and Mike Graham becoming more and more uncomfortable as he realizes he's been done for. Anyway, that was a fantastic. Now, joining me right now, I don't know whether you've been following this. There's a Professor Jason Ardo who's become enormously famous. He's got a book out in a couple of weeks. And he comes from a very allegedly deprived background. He didn't speak until he was, 11, or he didn't do this until he was 18. And he's gone on to become a Cambridge professor of sociology. He's also claimed a lot of other things. He ran about 4,000 marathons in about 20 minutes. He took part in 7-Up, which was allegedly took part in 7-Up, which is some TV program, and eventually said that he didn't take part in 7-Up. It was some other kind of project. He was this, he was that, he was the other. A lot of things being very uncomfortable. So joining me now is Joe Rich. Hi there, Joe. If we could see all of you, that would probably be helpful. Yes. Actually, no, you're right. Actually, I've heard it before. So, Joe, tell me what you make of Professor Arday and what his claims are.
Well, I should say before I begin that we obviously need to be extremely careful about what we say.
Yeah.
Because higher education have had this story since 2025, and Carter Ruck have been acting for Professor Arday since that time, and Times Higher Education seem to have had quite a lot of the story, not quite all of it, but they felt they had to spike it because of the threats they'd received from Professor Arday's very expensive and very highly respected lawyers. But there is a recurring theme here, and that is that people of the left, people who are regarded as highly deserving by the left, do seem to be judged by rather different standards to those which would be subjected to which other people are subjected. And there is a real and genuine dichotomy here, because if you were a Labour MP, Green leader, or the left-wing Marxists and hard-left academics who are backing him, you seem to have a very different view about it to other people of the right and of the left who regard academic probity, accuracy, and truth-telling as more important.
Tell me about this then, Joe. Can I ask you, to interrupt you there, just to ask you, the substantive allegations, there are many myriad allegations now. There's one about WaterAid. I don't know whether you've seen that one this morning, in which he said he went abroad and was an ambassador for WaterAid, and WaterAid say specifically we'd never send anybody abroad with our project, okay? And so that was another one that seems to have bitten the dust. But isn't the substantive problem is that he had a PhD in which it is said that he plagiarized it from other academics, and one in particular. In fact, I used to do that on The Sun. We used to nick stories from other people, and I used to call it Plage One. Anyway, there we go. So isn't that where the substantial issue is?
The Daily Star's reporting. Yes, I mean, you've given the example of the PhD, which Professor Ardé wrote in 2015, which contained, as an exemplar, more than 100 near verbatim passages from one other source alone. That was Paula Zwardiak-Meyer's 2009 thesis, which was credited in some small measure, but not to the extent that Professor Ardé had used it. And, that's not how the academic game works. High-level academia requires punctilious research. It doesn't require copying of someone else's work. And in many of those cases, there were spelling mistakes and errors and grammatical misconstructions that were replicated from the original into Professor Ardé's thesis. And yet he is regarded by Cambridge University, or some people at Cambridge University, as being the best in the field, when they could really have just gone to someone else who'd written the stuff before.
As damaging as it is to Professor Ardé, right, I'm not sure whether his book sales are going to go up or go down, actually. In a funny way, I think they'll probably go up, mainly so that people can pull it apart. But this is very dangerous for Cambridge, isn't it? I see that one of the people who wrote the endorsement against the suggestion that they'd been plagiarizing, has now disappeared off the note. So there was a note, I think the president signed it, but now the president mysteriously has disappeared off it. And isn't it Cambridge that suffers? i.e., Cambridge is not doing well at the moment. I don't know whether you've seen in the world rankings, it's going right down the tube. Even in the UK, it is going down the tube. And this kind of stuff, if it reduced Cambridge to basically being, I don't know, Nottingham Trent, okay, this is a serious commercial and political effect, isn't it? Oxford and Cambridge have been the two great universities for my lifetime.
I'm a Cambridge man, and it's really embarrassing. And it's not embarrassing being a Cambridge man, but it is embarrassing for my university to let people drag reputation of academia university through mud like this. I think it's very troubling that people seem to regard the reputation of the university as not particularly important when they have an asset in Professor Ardé who they want to in place, support, and maybe even advance further. You may have seen that there was a possibility that he may have achieved further advancement. He has been political in the past, and there has been some move, as I understand it, for him to join the House of Lords as a Labour peer. And don't get me started on that, because the current collection of new Labour peers are not necessarily the kind of people that you and I would want to see governing the country.
I would prefer not to have any Labour
yeah, I mean,
Labour peers, to be honest.
Well, yes, I struck a statement in a way that accommodated that. um, I, I, I mean, there are many examples. I mean, I don't know if you've seen Bath University's role in this. They had an interview with Professor Ade that replicated some of the rather more outlandish claims that he'd made. And I've highlighted the claim that he played professional football and professional snooker.
No,
And
is that serious?
people have been, yeah, well, there was a claim on Bath University's website with an interview, in an interview with Professor Ade, that he played professional football and professional snooker. But mysteriously, in the last few days, that claim has been deleted. And the Internet Wayback Machine, one of my favourite devices, was able to show that it had taken place, that edit had taken place sometime between the 29th of July and the 1st of August. And Bath University have now rather interestingly apologised to Professor Ade for apparently misquoting him in the interview that he gave, which is, again, you know, why do they choose now to perform those re-edits if indeed the original interview didn't contain those claims?
Who do you think is paying his legal bills? Or do you think that Carter Ruck are doing it on a we'll take some money off the top or at some stage?
Well, Carter Ruck would say that they do a lot of pro bono work for deserving causes, and it may be that they consider Professor Ade to be a deserving cause. But as the Times Higher Education example shows, they're doing a lot of work for him. They've been doing a lot of work for him for some time, and other people have too. But
doesn't
I understand
say
it's
much.
still on the record.
Doesn't say much for the Times not taking on Carter Ruck. I mean, people have been taking on Carter Ruck for the whole of my kind of journalistic lifetime. I mean, they were the basis of privatised Sue, Grab It and Run, weren't they? So, I think they were quite pleased with themselves. So I'd like to see the Times stand up, publish the damn lot, and then put the name of their lawyers in at the bottom of the story and saying, please send it to us. We'll enjoy the slugging out in the High Court.
Well, to be fair to the Times, I think they have not necessarily gone out on a limb, but they've certainly published elements of this story. And the thing has developed such a critical mass that I would say Professor Ade probably isn't going to be suing anyone, because the consequences of that could be really rather undesirable, not just for him, but for anyone who supports him. Because, you know, if someone funds litigation, there are dangers. There are dangers for the funders. But I mean, the fact that Carter Ruck had been there for so long, and persuaded the Times of all papers not to publish was a really good story. I mean, it wasn't an accidental exclusive like some of the news stories in the Guardian that we've looked at. It was a genuine investigation.
That's very funny. Accidental exclusive. Joe Rich, thank you very much. Always a pleasure to speak to you. Let's hope that there are more Ade exclusives. All right. Cheers.
Lovely to see you.
Cheers, Joe. Okay, hi. So one of the sadder and probably, I don't know why I should be amazed about these things, is the death of Rod Liddell. Okay. So we're going to come to that in a minute, and we're going to come to a fan of his. I enjoyed his stuff in The Spectator. I did not enjoy his stuff elsewhere. So we've got some super chats coming up, I think, which are always a pleasure. So that's 10 quid from Simon Kilford. I could do with 10 quid. Thanks very much, Simon. And great show this morning, Kelvin, says John Marku, sorry. Simon back again for another tenner. Honestly, Simon's too good of you. That's it. Okay, well, that's good. Great stuff, this. Right. Now, Peter, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce your name, but McElvenna.
Spot on, McElvenna.
Right,
Well
got
done.
it, got it. Okay, Peter, well done. Well done me. You can never be sure. I mean, to be honest with you, this is a very kind of anglicised list today. Mainly, I tell you one thing, one of the things I've learned about this is that the people who have much to say are often first-generation migrants. Certainly at the long distance is second generation. Yep. These are people who want to fight for things, right? Yep. Your accent is?
Northern Ireland.
Right,
Northern
whereabouts?
Belfast.
Belfast, yeah. Right. And actually one of the issues I have is that Belfast used to have, I don't know whether it still does, had a reputation, like Scotland, of having a great education system. Okay. What I have noticed is there's been a complete drop-off of the number of Northern Irish coming to London, right? They're saying it's too damned expensive. Actually, if I'm going to go and work in education or the state, which I think represents about 95% of all generation, I can do it there. I can make more money without having to pay the rents or the house prices or whatever. Is that true, by the way? Is this a generalisation?
No, I think it's changed a lot. I think it's changed back in my day whenever I left Northern Ireland and came to university. And a lot of people went, I mean, St Andrews was a big university from those from Northern Ireland, but also all over the country. And I think part of the benefit of that was people left Northern Ireland and realised no one cared about the troubles outside Northern Ireland. Yeah. So I think that brought some of the changes we saw. But now with Northern Ireland having the peace dividend, with it doing really well in terms of tourism, many people I talk to now want to go and see the peace walls and get a taxi around Belfast, around the Shankill and the Falls. Yeah. So it's changed massively, and that peace dividend has boosted Northern Ireland. And I think that means people are happier to stay. They're not trying to rush away somewhere different. They want to be part of that.
And prices are different was the thing I noticed. The other thing I really noticed was, by the way, if you're on a diet, don't go to Northern Ireland, because one of the astonishing things about the way that food is developed in is given to you in Northern Ireland is actually it's measured by height as well as circumference of the plate. You get the most enormous helpings for a very, very reasonable price compared to anything in London and the South East anyway.
Oh, it's true. An oyster fry is bigger than an English breakfast, definitely. But I remember my father telling me that whenever he came to England and someone said, "Oh, come for a cup of tea," and actually just was a cup of tea. Where Northern, if you came for a cup of tea, it would be sandwiches, it'd be biscuits, it'd be a whole platter. And he was always a cup of tea. Okay, I thought not even a biscuit. So it's just a different way of thinking of. I think hospitality is certainly very much part of the Northern Ireland culture.
And generosity of spirit. Yeah, oh, yeah. I totally get that. My brother was the editor of the Mirror in Belfast for some time. He made great friends. And when I mean great friends, what I mean is they went down to some yacht club on a Friday night, and come Sunday, he was still feeling ill. You know, I mean, he said the amount of alcohol consumed among their friendship group was beyond massive, right? Which is, you know, okay, it's a life. Right, now we're here, though, to talk about Rod Liddle. I've had a bit of a rant this morning about Liddle, mainly because I object to his death being reported on the front page, whereas they didn't really want to know about Rod Liddle at all. They didn't want him to talk about Islam. They didn't want to talk about trans. They didn't want him to talk about anything which is going to create a row. Well, if you're a columnist, if you're going to be in that kind of game, and by the way, when I was in it, there was always a problem, and they hated it. It cheered me up no end. It made me laugh, right? Cheered me up no end. So Rod Liddle dies and suddenly he gets the front page treatment, mainly because he'd become conventional media. I much preferred his stuff in The Spectator. And I used to say to him, why don't you write that stuff for the Sun or the Sunday Times? And he was quite candid about it. He said, they don't want me to.
No, they don't.
So were you friendly with Rod?
So no, I watched him from afar.
Yeah,
I didn't know him. The first time actually, the only one time I met him was back when I worked in the church, Kensington Temple, and the leader of the church, Colin Dye, was asked, Rod asked him if he could interview him. And remember, there's a whole discussion. I mean, Rod Liddle, he's a bit kind of edgy. We don't know, and you don't know what Rod will do. He was kind of guerrilla warfare behind enemy lines, and he came and they did a 1.5 hour interview, and he was completely fair, and he was actually genuinely curious about this large black majority church, a world away from my background actually, as well, in Northern Ireland. But he was genuinely curious and wanted to understand about it. So that was the first time I came across him, and was really blown away by how fair he was. And I mean, old school journalist, wanted to hear what was happening.
We don't want too much of that being fair, Peter. Honestly, mate, you've gone clearly quite mad. My main object, actually, that is not true. If you felt a warmth towards somebody, no matter what your preconceived notion was, that was it. So if I looked at Liddell, so I mean, this is the other aspect of it, and he led life to the full. Look, let's have no ifs and buts about it. You drop dead at 66, right? Which is, as far as I'm concerned, as you might expect looking at this, right? That's no age, right? You drop dead, something happened, and he had a lifestyle choice.
Colourful.
Yeah, that's right. You put the word colourful in, yeah. And suddenly, so it's not so much the drinking, and I think he did like to take a fair run at it off a very short pier, right? Yeah. But there was smoking. He was a heavy smoker. If you have that combo in the world that we now understand, I mean, honestly, have you ever tried to? Do you smoke?
No.
No, right. I don't smoke, right. But you look at the packet of cigarettes now. That basically says it does say on it, this packet will kill you, right? And therefore, when you've got an addiction towards tobacco, you are actually sentencing yourself to an early end. Except, I suppose, 66 in the old days would not have been considered an early end. I mean, you look at your background in Northern Ireland. I don't know what would be the average age of them. You know, when you heard Auntie Meg has gone, and she's 69, somebody might have said, actually, Meg had a good run. If you said that here, people you'd think it was a joke, right?
Yeah.
Have you noticed that kind of change in the way that we kind of view, and also people bringing health issues to their door? There was a very good breakfast show host on TalkSport. He took a good run at everything. He had to have a liver transplant in the summer. Actually, he's back tomorrow if anybody wants to to listen to it. Right, very talented guy. But you don't get a liver transplant by mistake, do you? I mean, there's only 1 week for it. Tell me this, do you think that, even although you probably believe in free speech, as I do, it sits uneasily with commercial imperatives, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. And I'm a free speech absolutist. I think everything should be brought to the table. Right. That's how a society grows. That's how a society functions whenever you've got the restrictions and controls. And Rod never held back. He always, and you mentioned two of the issues. The issue we had on the High Court ruling on the puberty blockers on Friday, and how that's been rolled out on Saturday, that would, I guess, be something that he would really jump and want to highlight. Or you mentioned Islam, and I know I have worked for Lord Pearson in the House of Lords for 10, 11 years, and he always has a high respect for not only you, but also Rod, because there are very few journalists who are willing to critique Islam and ask questions, because that's not allowed. And of course, we've got the Islamophobia definition being pushed in. But those are areas
Can I ask you about that briefly?
Yeah.
Do you think that that's like when you look at the Burnham approach to politics, do you honestly believe that you're going to see that push through?
Oh, 100%.
Oh, you do?
I don't see anything stopping it. I remember I sat in one of those meetings incognito. Lord Pearson asked me to go. It was APPG on British Muslims and something, and Baroness Farsi was there telling us how everyone hated Muslims and we had to have this protection, giving all these examples that she came up with of why it was needed. And you've got that victim mentality, and therefore you need to protect that victim, obviously. So that is the line they've trotted out, and I don't see anything pushing back on it.
Okay, right. So you don't see anything pushing back on it for political reasons, not for real reasons. You don't see anything being pushed back on it. So does that mean that somebody like me, for instance, if I wrote a column, did a broadcast, put together some collection, shall we say, that I could be in trouble? Could it be that I could be accused of Islamophobia in some kind of official way? Is it going to be a legal thing? Am I going to be, and you, Kelvin MacKenzie, are charged with Islamophobia between the dates of October 22nd and February the 8th?
Well, my understanding is that it's not going to be a legal definition, but it's one that we expect you to follow. So if a charity, for instance, if they say anything wrong, will they get their tax exempt status removed? What about journalists? What about Ofcom? Will they come down if you say anything? And it's such a grey area because it's that if someone finds offence in what you say,
which they're bound to do,
everyone is offended at something at some point. Yeah. And the problem is if you engage with a group that are told you must be offended at everything, then it's going to happen. So we're going to have these court cases, so many court cases. I think I read somewhere, I think the Free Speech Union talked about we have now 30 arrests a day. I think they said they expect that to go up 5 to 6 times whenever this definition comes in.
Do you mean, are you talking about 200 people a day charged in some way or some loose way with Islamophobia?
Well, yes, but not even charged, arrested and told your conduct is not conducive to the common good of the country and we need to check what you've said. And that oppression, we're going to have to ramp up the police. I don't know where they're going to come from to actually go and investigate.
So I write a piece in which I've read something, somebody who follows Islam has done something which I object to or an organisation have. I attack it, they take umbrage at it, they contact the cops, and they say, go around and have a. Do they come around and have a word, or do they say, you're arrested, mate?
I think we have to find out how a definition is policed, and we don't know how that's going to happen. Right. Because if you've done something which is wrong, there has to be a punishment. So is that punishment defined? Is it time in prison? What is it? And you can't have, whether it's a crime or not, it's a definition that all charitable bodies certainly will be encouraged to follow, as will everyone. Police forces will adopt it. So whenever that is adopted, then if you go against that, there has to be a punishment. There has to be.
And who defines whether you have crossed a line there?
The bar is so low. The bar is not just if you say something and I hear it and I'm offended, I report it. No, it's you say something and I hear it and I think someone could be offended, then I report that.
Oh, you can be offended on somebody else's behalf?
Oh, yes, of course.
Now that has already caused huge amounts of problems, hasn't it? What makes you think it's going to carry through? Because as far as I remember, Angela Rayner was a great proposer of this particular thing. Well, I would have thought she'd be keeping her trap kind of firmly shut, right?
Does she ever keep her trap shut?
Not at the moment, not at the moment. But is she likely? Do you know if somebody else is taking up the baton on her behalf? And remember, Starmer was much more legally friendly towards putting stuff into statute. This guy clearly isn't. However, he does rather fancy those 3.5 million votes, doesn't he? And hopes that the Greens don't get them, and this may be a way of being helpful to them.
Oh, because if you look at the Gorton and Denton by-election, that was a 30% swing and a 30% Muslim voting bloc. That was the first time we saw a voting bloc like
correct.
that. And Labour are fighting against the Greens because the Greens are trying to take that vote and Labour are fighting. And what do? You placate that share of the vote by giving them what they want. And therefore, it's common sense for them to give a full Islamophobia definition and start arresting people to show we're tough on people that stand against you.
Right, so I find that really difficult, not least of all because I'm not asking what your religion is, but supposing I don't support whatever your religion is, I want to attack it. I want to attack the basis of it. I don't like the idea of Muhammad. I don't like the idea of a God, right? I find these offensive, we are what we are and then we pass on, right? But I can carry on attacking your church, I can attack your religion, and that's fine, right? And what they would say, I presume, Islam, is, well, why don't you do what we do, right? And we have more and more and more and more religions covered by more and more statues of some kind or another. That is a very tough area, that.
Well, it's a Muslim blasphemy law in the back door, and we shouldn't have that. There should be no such thing as Christianophobia. There isn't. I mean, you should be able, if I'm a Christian, you should be able to say what you like, and that's up to you.
Yeah.
I mean, why does a belief need protection? People need protection in society, but not a belief.
And in fact, in Islam, you could actually argue the other way. We should not allow people to have their bodies, heads, and everything totally covered. We just don't do a France.
Yeah.
Supposing, for instance, the government said alongside Islamophobia, we're actually scrapping your ability to wear head-to-toe coverings. Okay, we have decided to adopt the only area from France, apart from the croissant, that we really agree with. Right? What would they say to that?
Well, wasn't that one of Rupert Lowe's lines to Nigel yesterday? Ban the burqa. I think that was one of the demands. So, but you have to think, how are women treated? How are non-Muslims treated? Do women choose to cut themselves off from society? Do they choose to not see anyone else? Do they choose to cover themselves from head to foot in the baking heat? I don't believe they do. Maybe they're told that's what you must do. But if that teaching is removed, then they, as human beings, have the right to freedom, the same as a man has. And you often see a Muslim man walking along and the wife covered a couple of feet behind him.
And by the way, they're wearing a T-shirt and a pair of jeans, right? And these ladies are forced to wear X, Y, and Z. It's because the Muslims believe in the theocracy aspect of there. So in Iran, these ladies are literally who say, right, I like pop music, I don't want to wear this hijab, I'm taking it off, da-da-da-da-da. The next thing they know, they're being whipped in a public place or even in a private place. Nobody, I never hear Stonewall say anything about that. I never hear these feminist activists start saying this is disgraceful. You know, honestly, it's really sickening. Peter, I'm going to have to wrap it up right now. It's a shame. The reason we didn't talk about Rod Liddle is because Rod Liddle actually is a gateway to free speech, and that is what we did do there. So although we didn't say goodbye to a guy who led life, he took a good run at it. After all, a most unusual journey to go from head of the Today program, right? When it was pretty lefty there, right? And he also wandered around the left for a while. He was more of a nationalist. He was more. He wasn't really of the right so much as he was against the establishment.
You'd have never seen him at a UKIP rally.
Yeah,
never.
You would not. No.
But yet he spoke his mind, and the more people like him, the better we are in our society.
Correct.
Yeah,
we want more free speech, no matter whether we feel offended by it. So we're not like Islam, right? Islam has many questions it has to answer, and why we invite them to be given a freedom, which we seem to deny everybody else, I don't know. Perhaps one of the freedoms is perhaps we could persuade followers of Islam to stop trying to kill people, and particularly Jews, in our country. Perhaps there should be a law against that. How about that then? After this, we've got the news and then more free speech.
Good morning, I'm Edward Hughes. The Knob of the North has revised the early release scheme for prisoners. Rapists, serious child sex offenders and groomers are now barred from early freedom, though some killers, including 2 of PC Andrew Harper's, remain eligible. The plan is delayed until October to ease overcrowding. England and Wales have just recorded their driest July since records began in 1836, triggering droughts, crop damage and wildfires. A major incident has been declared over a large blaze on Llanwano Mountain in the Rhondda, with crews still battling the flames. US President Donald Trump has again urged Britain to open up North Sea oil and gas, calling the UK essentially bankrupt without it, while the Knob has signalled a pragmatic approach. You tell him, Donald, these lefty nutters want to bankrupt us. Laters, tigers.
That's a good idea. Yeah, hi. Yeah, literally the home of free speech. That was good stuff, that, because although we started talking about Rod Liddle, it's not really about Rod Liddle we're talking about. We're talking about the ability, without actually causing pain and suffering and everything, that free speech is an important aspect of our lives. Not to the point of destroying families and having upset colleagues and stuff like that. Keep away from all that. But if you have a view, the idea that Islam is going to get some protected characteristic is completely wrong. And my problem with it is, what effect is it going to have on the rest of us? Are we going to have, is Catholicism going to be protected? Is Christianity going to be protected? Hindu? It could be anything. It's wrong. We won't be able to say anything about anything. And Islam seems particularly sensitive about these issues. That Baroness Wazi, a pain in the arse, a pain in the Wazi. Right, in the wazoo. Right, thank you. I remember having a shocking row with her before we went on air on Question Time once. And we were having a really good go at each other. And the producer came over and said, do stop it. Can we save that to on air? Really? I said, I'm not saving it on air. And we carried on. Anyway, Pooch has done us a favour, because I don't know where Nicholas DeSanto is. He's supposed to be, he's quite a decent guy, rather strange cove, but that is his strangeness which is attractive, I think. So there's one thing that I feel enormously concerned about at the moment. Okay, so you probably knew this, right? I didn't know this. And the very good piece here written by Melanie Phillips. I think she spends half her time, may spend most of her time in Israel, but she and her husband is a great legal mind. She writes about the fact that there's been a ruling by the Information Tribunal that government ministers can keep any criminal convictions secret.
It's so weird. That's exactly what I was just about to bring up with you.
Okay, fine. Good.
It's incredible, isn't it? So convicted criminal Louise Haigh.
Yeah.
Actually, Elena, have you got the Nigel Farage clip there, please? Can we play that? Should be number 3 or 4.
Yes.
Have a look at that one, please.
A one-sided pile-on against reform. I don't think people's family members would be... I don't think Kemi Badenoch's family members or Andy Burnham's family members would be subject to the harassment and increased security risk that mine have been. I've only spoken about a very little part of this. I don't believe it will. And, if every time the name George Cottrell is mentioned, you write career criminal next to it, well, please make sure, folks, in the interest of fairness, you do the same with Louise Haigh, and you make sure every time that Johnny Reynolds is mentioned, you do put next to it the fact that he had a false CV and that Angela Rayner didn't pay her tax. I think, without appearing to be whingers, I do think we have come under a level of attack that would not be seen by another party if it was part of the establishment, which we're not.
Actually, that was a good piece, that.
Yeah.
That was a good piece. It's
almost
not
as
bad.
though I know what I'm
do
doing.
notice that they do say about Cottrell, convicted criminal, right? I wonder whether they should change his name to George, quotes, convicted criminal, unquotes, Cottrell.
So they could call him George, convicted criminal, George, quotes, convicted criminal, end quotes, Cottrell.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I had a brief chat with you, and I think this is a concerted campaign.
Right.
And you weren't so sure.
Yep.
We're talking about the Richard Tice thing.
Yep.
The latest thing, and I sent you a text last night, I don't know if you read it.
Yep.
You're probably playing tennis. Kelvin played tennis yesterday, and I heard him boasting to his mate, hang
eight.
on.
8:30.
Oh,
8:30 last night.
I was 5-1 up until my foot went. Well, your foot seemed all right this morning.
It is actually.
Well,
But
what?
this is-
So you knew the guy was going to come back and beat you. You went, oh, my foot's gone. I've got to stop.
Actually, it was 5-2, actually.
Okay.
I've got more chance of taking up the rear end from a rhino than being beaten by my friend. But I did enjoy it. But
So-
I enjoy my tennis.
Yeah,
But look, come on.
the Tice thing,
Yeah.
the latest inquiry
Yeah.
is his undeclared expenses
Yeah.
on a trip to Israel, £6,000.
Yeah.
It's still a lot of money, but a member of the public complained. Now, if you believe that, as Mike says, your head zips up the back.
Yeah.
I just do not believe it. I think it's a concerted campaign, and you only have to look. Why aren't they saying convicted criminal Louise Haigh? Why aren't they saying that?
Convicted fraudster.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
She released a statement saying, I mistakenly reported my phone as stolen. She's lying.
Yeah.
She is lying. Why isn't the Sun? Why isn't the Times? Why isn't the Express? Why isn't the... I think they should keep on her until she resigns, because she shouldn't be in that post, and your bloody fourth estate should be on it, and if you're not doing that, you're not good for anything. We might as well get rid of the whole lot.
Can I just divert slightly there? It is not my fourth estate. I am part of the fourth estate. I'd like to own the whole damn thing, as would you, but at the moment we are literally at the foothills of a great media empire here. Look, at the end of it, let's deal with this significant issue of this, right?
Yeah.
Which is that this information tribunal now is quite a low. It's only the first tier. Okay,
Yeah.
I think they've got 2 to go, and then there can even be an appeal. I think. I'm sure this is going to get slung out.
Yeah.
But effectively, what they're saying is that no government minister who has a spent conviction has to reveal it. This is preposterous. Utterly preposterous. You are asking for my vote to make a decision to go to war, to increase my taxes, to actually put a housing estate down my road, right? And yet I don't know on what basis you got elected and whether you told the truth about your background and where actually criminality may still lie in there. Love to own it, whether it's criminality today or in the past, to the point where you were charged with something which will make me very uncomfortable about you being elected, let alone making decisions which can have a big effect on my life. And by the way, you can't do that if you're a police officer.
No.
I think, or one other area. I can't remember what the other area is, but the jobs where clearly having a conviction is going to preclude you from having that work, right? Actually, that surely must mean government minister as well.
Can she travel to America with a criminal record?
I wouldn't have thought so.
I don't think so.
No.
You know, so if you are a government minister, but you're banned from travelling to one of our closest allies because you have a criminal record, doesn't look very good, does it? I think they should be looking into, why now? Why have they just suddenly decided? I'm seeing reports on the issue, but I'm not seeing anyone saying why now? Who proposed this? Who tabled it?
Right.
Give me an example, Kelvin, of when you were in the business, of someone you pursued that you knew had done wrong, who was going to get away with it, but you thought, sod that, we're going to keep chasing you until we get you to resign.
Right. What happens is that actually removing your trousers, right, is always a significant problem, especially if it's in the company of somebody who's not your wife.
Yes.
Right. Directly that happens, right, you are, no matter how long it takes, and it doesn't take very long, it takes about 7 days or something, it's a significant problem to face it. However, I've also made mistakes. So with Elton John, right, we pursued Elton John on the basis that we believed a kid who came to see me and the news editor and the chief reporter, or a reporter, right, came and explained how he'd been involved in underage sex parties with Elton John and co. Actually, I believed it, right? Sat there and talked to him for 4 hours, right? We ran this thing, completely untrue. Actually ended up paying £1 million in damages, which was a hell of a load of money.
What did Murdoch say?
He went absolutely effing mad. He went mad once. So he called me up. So I sent him a note. I think I've told this story. I sent him a note which says,
you owe someone £1 million quid.
Yeah, right. So this was in the days of fax, right?
Yeah.
I send a note which says, to K.R. Murdoch from Kelvin MacKenzie, right? Just had a meeting with Elton John's lawyers. They want £1 million for full and final settlement of the libel action. Point. Our lawyers says we should settle. Best wishes.
Out of court.
Yeah, best wishes. Not best wishes. But, right. It was a no.
Laughing emoji.
Yeah. So anyway,
crying your eyes out.
that, right. Yeah, that's a lot of that. Anyway, so boom, off it goes. Right. So this is 1 o'clock in London. It's 8 a.m. in New York City. And he had a great office, actually, overlooking the East River, down on 210 South Street. Fantastic place, right? Now all developed, now fantastic. Anyway, so it arrives at, let's say it arrives at 1:18 seconds, right? We'll say that. At 1:19 seconds, right? The phone goes, anyway, he railed on. Anyway, look, I had been duped, the paper had been duped, and actually the public didn't really seem to give a damn, right? One when the other, but whether they did or they don't. Anyway, we had a big front page apology. Sorry, Elton, paid out the money, and Murdoch never mentioned it again.
No.
So one of the great things about Murdoch, his strength, and of course his weakness, because obviously it means his family go on the back burner as well, is his ability simply, actually, to close that door
and move on.
And never open it.
Can you get Rupert Murdoch to call my wife?
What?
Not the wife. We had this yesterday.
We had that, yeah.
My wife.
Right.
So just after Christmas, about 18 years ago,
18 years ago.
I had to get rid of the Christmas tree. And I thought, well, I tell you what, actually, there's probably a few months after Christmas because the Christmas tree was really dry. And I thought I'd burn it in the garden.
Good idea.
So I burnt it in the garden and then left it, went back. Then my wife came back complaining it burnt a round circle of grass. And so we had a bare patch.
Yeah, and I can see that.
Okay, fair enough. I should have done things differently. Do you think it's appropriate for her to bring it up maybe every 4 weeks? To this day, when I do anything slightly wrong, she said, well, what about that hole you burnt in the grass? So, Mr. Murdoch, if you're listening, please contact Mrs. Pooch and tell her to finally close the door on the hole in the grass scenario, because I'm getting whipped by that, Kelvin.
Yeah, that's true. Well, when actually my wife is not like that at all. She doesn't hold things against me at all. And which is another thing I need to talk to her about. No, I'm joking. No, she doesn't do that. But if they've got the drop on you on something, then you just have to take it. And actually, it must be a source of humour, actually.
Keep taking it, yes. I mean, it is a bit of a source of humour. But are you like that? I like to close the door on things.
Yeah.
If it's done, it's done. Production, if something goes wrong, you go, well, okay, fine, close the door on it. But that is a very good trait of Murdoch's, isn't it?
Oh, no. The greatest, so he has two great traits, right? Well, he's got three. He's got the ability to move on, the ability to never talk about a subject that he doesn't want to talk about.
Yeah.
Right? So, for instance, the murder of his deputy chairman's wife, right, which happened 50 years ago.
I've heard that story.
He has never, ever said one word about that. And I am a bit closed-eyed as a journalist, right, about why that should be. And I fear that if you looked at the News of the World lead story the week before the alleged murder took place, I wonder whether you get the 2 and 2 on that, which is that could the News of the World have played a role in the kidnappers deciding to kill the lady? And does Murdoch, who would have been the overall leader of the company at that time, feel he may have played a role or doesn't want his role investigated? I just raise that for better minds than ours. And the other aspect is that he is determined to get his way.
Yeah, but also I think all of that, the umbrella on that is his business acumen.
Oh.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
He knows what he wants, where he wants to go, and how he wants to do it. The rest follows behind that.
Correct.
So that's pretty incredible, isn't it?
Now, there was no doubt that he was that he basically lost the plot in a media sense, because the person in charge of the media today is the customer and not the media owner. So the media owner tells you to do this, you will like this. And actually the customer said, well, no, I don't actually, I want that over there. And that what's happening is that there are little things, right, and it's a bit like this channel, right? You know, as long as it delivers what they want, they will stay with us until they're mates. You should come and watch it.
Yep.
That's different from the Murdoch days. The Murdoch days of we are publishing this,
And you will read it.
and you will read it. Now, if you want to read it, you will have possibly an app, definitely, or you will arrange for an individual subscription
Yep.
rather than just going down to a newsagent. So these are completely different things, causing challenges in the media and opportunities. But the opportunities have been a lot less than the challenges. It's been difficult.
Can we go back to what you were talking to Peter about?
Yeah.
I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
I've always had this belief of, and I don't care who it is, but any kind of minority demanding rights. It's like going to a football club. You're in a football club and you're the home fans, and the away fans are now seated with you, and you have to like their songs. You can't protest that they're there with you. I think it is that tribal. I think that people who are feeling that they have to put up with Islamification, they have to accept that women are happy wearing burqas and hijabs, and that it's a good thing to walk 10 paces behind your husband. Did I tell you when I went to get my passport renewed, and there was a woman at the passport office wearing a
Where
full...
was the one in East London?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Canary Wharf one,
Yeah.
around there.
Yeah.
She was wearing a full like burqa and everything like that. That's fine. And I said, "Oh, there's my passport." It was ripped to shreds. George, my dog, had got hold of it.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, that's another one my wife keeps going on about.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting watching TV, and which I don't watch much, but I was watching a bit of TV, and I thought George was ripping one of his toys apart, which they do.
It turns out about your passport.
It was my passport, and Joe walked in and said, "What's this?" And I said, "Oh, it's my passport. Fine, okay, I'll get another one." That damage is done. I will rectify it, but she does mention it a lot nowadays.
Right.
So straight after the fire story, it's a passport story. Anyway, I went in and gave the woman my passport, and she said, "Oh, what happened to it?" I said, "Oh, my dog ate it. Dog ate my homework. Dog ate my passport." She got up from the table, walked out, went into a room, was away for a good minute, came back with blue surgical gloves on, picked up my passport like someone had defecated on it, and proceeded to do that. Now, yes, it's kind of fine, but to me, again, that's imposition of someone else's culture on our culture. And this whole thing that people talk about, culture, ethnicity, race, xenophobia, the most important one is culture. I'm Italian family living here. My dad integrated totally. I mean, his English was rubbish, but integrated totally. But it's culture and the death of culture. When I go to France, I'm happy being in France. I eat croissant. You know, I am happy there. So when someone does that, or if I'm walking along and I was on the tube and a guy bought his beautiful golden retriever that straight away, being a dog freak, I went over and said, "Oh, can I stroke your dog? It's only a pup." It was lovely. There was a Muslim couple opposite. They got off and went into another carriage at the next stop. Is that right? Am I being intolerant? Am I thinking that they should step in line with us?
Right. So my argument to that is there's nothing wrong with them doing that.
Okay.
That's how they feel. 30 years from today, you're not allowed to take your dog on the tube because we are Muslims and we don't like dogs. That is when it becomes
that's what I mean.
trouble.
It's a thin end of the wedge, isn't it? Is that? Oh, Nick's here. Should we do live transfer?
Yeah,
We got a live transfer. Nicholas DeSanto
Nicholas,
has arrived.
where have you been? It's 11:33. You were due to be here at 11:15.
Nick, I've got a joke you can use on air. You can't talk yet because you haven't got a microphone. We've been stood up by a stand-up.
Stood up by a stand-up.
There we go. Here, Nick. There you go, sir.
Thank you very much.
Right.
There you go.
Thank you.
In he goes.
Where have you been? Where have you been, Nick? We've been missing
by
you.
the fridge company.
Huh?
Yeah.
By the fridge company.
Were you?
No, a lot of fridge engagements.
A lot of fridge
PR
engagement.
engagements. Yeah.
So what's been happening in your world, Nicholas? Anything interesting? Have you got any work?
Any work? Oh yeah, a bit. I'm going to Southampton this Saturday.
Oh right, where?
Exactly, it's called Totton. It's a suburb of Southampton.
Totton, yeah.
Totton, yes. Pooch can vouch for me.
Yeah.
So It's a nice club called The Attic, and I'm doing a joint show with the mighty Andrew Lawrence. But we've sold out, so I don't really need to plug that.
Okay.
So we sold that out.
How many people would like to be there? A couple of hundred?
140, I would say. I think that's
It's
the
not
capacity.
difficult to sell out 140. If I show my rear end on here, I could probably get 140.
Well, I mean, good for you, but there's rear end and rear end. So nowadays it's difficult, and well, I mean, this is the warm season, so people have other activities, and they have Instagram and all that.
Yeah.
So we were quite pleased, and so much so that now we have a new date in December, 17th of December. We'll be doing me and Andrew Lawrence will be doing the same venue.
Why do you think that you and Andrew Lawrence have managed to fill something up, whereas most people, you're quite right, in early August, nobody's going to go and watch,
Yeah, I'd like to think that we are good and we offer something that others don't. I mean, the good thing about double bills is that somebody does the heavy lifting,
What do you mean? On one particular night in the comedy world, somebody will get the laughs, and you think to yourself, good. You're pleased, actually. So somebody does that.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew obviously is a big name, and
is he?
He does. Yeah, he does.
It's a long name, but is it a big name?
Andrew Lawrence. He's ahead of me in the world of comedy. He did all those big gigs like Live at the Apollo, which has recently been axed by the BBC before it became woke and
Have we got any film on Andrew Lawrence telling a gag at all?
Find some.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So he got cancelled due to some unfortunate jokes that some people didn't like.
Is that true?
Oh yeah, this has
I
happened
didn't know
in 2020. But now he's back in business.
And did it affect it? Did it?
Oh, yeah.
We should get Andrew Lawrence on.
Yeah.
Because, first of all, the idea that he could sell out anywhere within 1,000 miles of Southampton is unbelievable. But also because he has a story in which he was growing great guns, and then he got cancelled for some reason nobody cares about, and now he and Nicholas are actually on the way up.
Yeah. I mean, he was always ahead of me, and he's great. In fact, last year I opened for him. And the good thing about opening for someone in the world of comedy is that there's less pressure on you because he's the headliner and you are, the up and coming.
Yeah.
This year is a double bill in equal, measures and status, if you like. So there's more pressure on me, but I'm very pleased that we sold that out.
Can I ask you this? Whereabouts do you come from? The kind of town area?
I live in Enfield, North London.
You live in Enfield, but where were you born?
In Rome, Italy.
Okay, you're born in Rome. Is there any possibility of an English comic standing up in Rome? Do you see what I mean? Take you, but turn the argument the other way around. Okay, English comic learns Italian, tells gags, fills her house. Would that happen?
Yeah, I'd like to think so.
Oh,
I
do?
I don't know anyone, but there's I have. This is actually one of my time-tested jokes. I always say I came to the UK because, first of all, I was not good looking enough for the Italian TV, but here I am on GB News, so it's something. But the other reason I said I came to the UK because we don't have stand-up in Italy because the weather is nice outside, Because who would go and sit in a
that guy
basement?
can't work anymore, can it?
Well, not for these 3-4 weeks of the year.
It's okay for the other 48.
Kelvin, I've got one here.
Okay, so here's Andrew Lawrence, who's appearing with Nicholas at a place that I've never heard of in Southampton. They've sold the place out. There is literally only 27 seats anyway. But Andrew has a bit of a backstory, which I didn't know anything about. But anyway, Andrew, he's a great comic. Let's have a look, see whether his gags are any good.
After 2 weeks of relentlessly churning out cringeworthy TikTok videos for the mentally subnormal, our unelected illegitimate Prime Minister, Top Bants Burnham, managed to find a few minutes in his packed social media influencer schedule to address the illegal migrant crisis. He's pledged to tackle the small boat crossings, focusing on building a system of safe routes for illegal migrants, supposedly to scupper the people.
Just want to have a gag, really.
Yeah. Okay. So if people check me out or Andrew out, and this one is already sold out, thankfully, but they can come see us on the 17th of December in the same venue, the Attic in Southampton, Tottenham to be exact. And then next month on the 5th of September, I'll be in Liverpool at Hot Water Comedy with my other comedian friend, Luke McDonald. So
Oh, right.
we are excited. This is the first time I'm performing in Liverpool, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I imagine that's not one of the easiest gigs in the country.
So
but
I've heard.
at the end of it all, how do you? Is one coming up? It's how do you deal with when you tell a gag? I tried doing this for a documentary. I was terrible. I couldn't remember the gags. I did all right for about 90 seconds, and then I couldn't remember it. It was just like a blank. What happens? Worse than that is dealing with silence.
Yeah.
I.e., you bang your punchline in, expecting to see the roll of humour, of laughter head towards you. How do you deal with that? You just move on?
It's better to acknowledge the elephant in the room because it makes it funnier, and it gives people the reassurance that you are aware of the situation, and that awkwardness can also become funny in its own way. So I've learned that it is not good to pretend nothing has happened. So
what is the gag? You've got a line then that deals with that. What is it? So you've told your gag, boom, boom, and then
I have a few saves.
Okay.
These are called saves in the industry. Okay. So if something bombs, I have one of these lines those saves usually save the situation and get a laugh. For example, one of the popular ones is that if they don't like it, especially because if it's a woke environment, like I mean.
You know who he is. You absolutely love him. Please give him a special Comedy Unleashed welcome. He is Andrew Lawrence.
Yeah. Thank you, Comedy Unleashed. You having a good night? I forgot I had a gig, to be honest with you. About 6 o'clock at night, I ran out the door, and my partner said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I've got a gig in London." She said, "Why are you going there, London? It's a shithole." I said, "That's a bit racist. You wouldn't say that about an English city, would you?" Sadiq Khan, 3 terms in office is very impressive, I think it's pretty. 3 terms in office, apparently, in East London, he got 125% of the votes.
That's fine. Mm-hmm. Okay, I can see why you guys will work well together as well. And all right, he is bigger than you, but I admire the fact that you do it at all. Going on there, it's not easy. You've got quite a funny guy on there, been around for donkey's years, and then you still do it. Excellent. So let's talk about those saves again. Okay, so the joke's bombed.
Mm-hmm. So I either say, this is one of my favorites, I say, and it's true, it's kind of funny because it's true. I say some of these jokes are for my YouTube fans, because obviously I am doing it maybe in Camden or at the university, woke environment, but people on YouTube are different. They might be from America, they might be conservative, so they do like it. And then on YouTube, they do come and say, "Yeah, that's for us," So they think they are involved, even though they're watching a recorded video. Something else I say is that maybe the laughter is not that big, but I say, well, you still liked it more than the folks at Goldsmith University campus, which is again kind of true, right? Or for example, I have this joke. Can I do the joke? It's a short one. So I say, it's good to be here. Well, anywhere you go, you say it's great to be here, and I say, well, my wife is Austrian and vegetarian, so it's good to be anywhere but home, right? And then that gets a laugh. And then I go on for the second punchline. I say Austrian and vegetarian. Do you know that there have only been 2 vegetarians in the entire history of Austria? Only 2 vegetarians in the entire history of Austria. And I'm stuck with the evil one, right? So that gets a laugh, but some people are a bit hesitant. And then I say, hey, I did that joke in Israel and they liked it. So, loosen up, which is again true, because Israelis have a great sense of humor.
Laugh. You then get a good laugh with that.
Yeah, because people want some, like if I go after black people, and this is a classic, it's just not something I invented, but if I go after black people and people are a bit holding back because they think, oh, shall we laugh, then I find a couple of black people who are laughing. I say, okay, look, now you have permission to laugh because the black couple are having a good time.
Right, that is a good point. So if you look to your audience, I would say, I'm guessing, I wouldn't have to be a genius, it'd be a white audience, okay? When you get people of color in that audience, does that change your act, or do you use it in the way that you just spelled it out? Do you actually say, and are you keeping a special lookout for the minorities on the basis that you hope that the gag is working over 100% rather than just 97%?
Well, it's good to have some sort of awareness of who is in the room, because you obviously already have a set which you want to do, but you have left ideally some margin for some flexibility in case people aren't into sports or politics or whatever. You want to change a bit because you want everybody to have a good time. So it's good to have some awareness, to clock the Asian guy, the young couple, the extremely young couple, somebody has brought their teenager with them. So you want to know who is where so that you can address them and also make them feel involved. And of course, if there's a bunch of black people, they are there to have a good time. If they know me or if they know someone like Andrew Lawrence, they presumably know what they are walking into. And again, they want to be made fun of because then they are really equal, right?
They're important.
The racism, ironically, the racism that sometimes comes from the left, also known as the racism of low expectations. Like these blacks are snowflakes, or Muslims are snowflakes. You can't go after them because they are different to us and they have a lower threshold, or a different sense of humor. That is, in a way, racist, isn't it?
Okay, well, then let's raise that point. That's an interesting point, that. So tell me, how many Muslim women have you ever seen in your audience?
Not many, I would say.
I would say that was true. And if you then looked at your audiences generally, who laughs the most? The young, the middle-aged, or the old? I'm working on the assumption that you do look as an audience as a collection of customers, right? They're not a mass. They are individuals, and therefore you're looking at the demographics and trying to work out who your act works best with. So take my question. Who lasts the most, the old, the middle-aged, or do the young last the most?
That's a good question. My audience usually is on the older side, especially at Comedy Unleashed, because it's a conservative audience. Maybe not in America, because again you go to a conservative territory and younger people also are there, which is great. Sadly, here it happens a bit less. Sometimes older people enjoy it more, but sadly for the comics, they laugh maybe inside or on the quiet side, and then they come out after the show and say, "Oh, I loved it." I say, "You could have maybe tell it to your face, because you want also the audio effect, and because laughter is also contagious, right?"
You've got to say to them, you've got to be quite curt with them and say, "Don't laugh on the inside, right? It's my career, right? Laugh on the outside, otherwise I'm going to be as skint as the people in
We had
Morocco."
this show in Jerusalem a couple of months ago. The first show sold out, so we had a second show. Now the first show was earlier and it was sold out, but it was the older audience, the Jerusalem audience, and it was kind of quiet. But everybody was saying, "No, they loved you, but they're just like that." And then the late show, the room was half full, but it was the younger audience. It was because it was later, and they were much louder, even though the room was half empty. So as a comic, you would like people to laugh out loud, because first it gives you some encouragement and validation, feedback, because that is, you constantly need the feedback. And also on the videos, it sounds good, because sometimes you're doing good, but people don't hear the audience. This was a dead audience. No, they were kind of old, or maybe they were not mic'd properly. But also laughter is contagious.
Correct.
Which is also another consideration. If you have tables, like American style, because there's dining and people are eating, so they are further and wider apart, so that's a bit trickier. Whereas if they are sat all next to each other, when people around you are laughing, you're more likely to laugh and to show your appreciation. So these are all considerations to have.
Did you change your act in Jerusalem?
Not really, because I was kind of told to do the highlights, and of course from place to place, maybe you acknowledge the place, because one place is in we did one which was in the West Bank, or what they call Judea and Samaria.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so this was a proper settler. Then you had more religious communities with women who are maybe a bit covered, or they don't shake your hands, although they like you, they've come to see you. And then you do Tel Aviv, which is a bit more woke.
Oh, it is.
Somebody even cheered for Palestine, and I didn't expect that this was Tel Aviv, right? So
when you heard that, a woman cheer for Palestine, did you say, actually as a gag, I didn't expect to hear that?
Yeah,
here.
I did say that.
And what happened there? Did people laugh or cheer, or did they go quiet?
Probably. No, they didn't go quiet.
Right.
But, I go after the woke. So if I'm in Tel Aviv, I say, so I had, again, this joke, which I did in Israel, again, if you don't mind me. I said,
no, you tell it.
Britain decided to participate in the war with just one ship, helping Donald Trump, HMS Dragon. Right, and the HMS Dragon was late, the war was already over, Trump what's the holdup? And the holdup was that 4 sailors on board HMS Dragon had not finished their online LGBT awareness course. So the Royal Navy HR wouldn't release the paper. So, and then once the ship wanted to, some people said, the woke said, of course this bit is a joke, right? The woke said HMS Dragon is a toxic name full of toxic masculinity. Let's change the name. Let's give it an Islamic name as a goodwill gesture to the Muslim world, to show them this is a defensive operation, not an offensive operation. So let's give this destroyer an Islamic name. So they renamed it HMS King Charles. Right? So I did this in Israel, but before doing that, first I need to make sure there are Israeli Brits in the audience, because you have to know the history of King Charles and all that. So you need to make sure, and that's about clocking not black people or Asian people, but you are in Israel.
Know your audience.
Who is British, who is American, who is Russian Jewish, and so on. So once you've made sure that you have enough Brits to expect a laugh, and then if they don't laugh, the save would be, ask the British gal in the interval why that is funny, right? But enough people laugh, so it did work. Yeah. But then you need to make sure they know what woke is, right? So you are in this kibbutz-like or very religious area.
Surely they know what woke is.
So again, that's the joke. I say, okay, maybe you don't have woke here, but you've been to Tel Aviv. You know what I'm talking about. And everybody knows that Tel Aviv is, the gay scene and the woke scene and all that. So you acknowledge different places that you go and how.
So when you actually, I mean, it's quite brave
Thank you.
to go to. I mean, I love my time in Israel. I mean, but I was staying in Tel Aviv. I was staying in a very nice area. I could walk down to the beach. I could walk to kind of an Arab quarter. I mean, it was the greatest, the most. And also the other fascinating thing about Israel was that all the signs, the last time I'd seen those signs were in the Bible. Mm-hmm. And the idea that you were walking around history where it was being signposted, Dead Sea, 4 kilometers or something like that. It was unbelievable. And I would urge everybody to go to Israel. And it'll be a lot safer than going to Dubai, for instance, I suspect. But how do you go out there as a comedian actually telling gags in not your language in a place that is 4,000 miles away? How do you feel when you stand up on stage? Because you don't know whether anybody's going to understand the basis of any of the gags.
That's right. I mean, it is true for any place, even in America. And again, you joke about it. You think, that's again one of my saves. I say, well, if anything doesn't work, I'm going to either blame the jet lag for America. I'm going to blame the language barrier, so I make fun of their pronunciations versus British pronunciations. Or whatever doesn't work, I just want to assure you they are very funny in England. So basically you put the pressure on them.
It goes down great in England. Yeah. So that. I mean, I do get that. I think in America, I can remember going to comedy clubs in New York City, and the black comics there were by 1,000 miles the funniest, because they would go the extra mile for the gag. Right? They weren't sitting around worried about what the state of the audience was. They basically said, if I tell rude, sex-based and race-based gags, this will bring the house down. And my God, it brought the house down. It was
they have less inhibitions.
Yeah. So one of the issues about being a comedian is not having any inhibitions. And in the world you're in now, I suspect you could be worth quite a lot of money. Because if you actually stood up and told jokes that people really laughed at, there would be a queue to see you. Your problem is finding a hall that would actually take your gags.
Yes.
So actually, that's a really uncomfortable moment, isn't it?
Yeah, in fact, as I said, next month, for example, we are doing Hot Water Comedy, which is a reputable, well-known club in Liverpool. It's a mainstream club, fingers crossed. Me and my friend Luke McDonald, we tried to do a show last year in Birmingham, and the venue canceled kind of last minute. And they said, well, we just looked into you guys, and your comedy doesn't sit well with the values of our venue, and our staff wouldn't feel safe and all. So we had to, well, Luke, bless him, had to, scramble to find an alternative venue last minute, which he did. But this is a concern that when you approach a venue, you have to say, okay, by the way, this is my resume, these are some of my clips.
Right.
Are you going to, bail out on us last minute? You need to get some reassurances, or sometimes go for non-mainstream venues. Even in America, I opened, for example, for Leonardo Joni, which I really like, and she's very good and funny and brave. And she goes for venues like, in America they call them Shriners, or the Veterans of Foreign Wars, VFW, American Legion, again connected to the veterans. So these are venues which are first open-minded and conservative-leaning because they're maybe connected to the military, and secondly, because they are not typical comedy venues, they are less susceptible to be intimidated by anonymous members of the public, or even worse, fellow comedians who will say, oh, I won't come to your venue ever again if you host.
That is a very good point. The politics of being in comedy is nightmarish, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's some very, very lefties, right, who use the leverage of their fame to say, you can either have him or you can have me. You can't have both. And if you have you, then we're gone. I mean, that is a shocking aspect of comedy.
This is not just the leverage of fame, but also sometimes the leverage of anonymity, because if you're a business owner, you have a venue, it's your bread and butter, you don't want headaches. So sometimes you bail out, and it's sad, but it's also to some extent understandable. So yeah, this does happen. This is cancel culture at its ugliest, and we have to deal with it. We have to deal with the fact that sometimes venues do not provide, either they don't let us go on stage, or they bail out and cancel us. And even when you do it on YouTube or on X or Twitter, like it happened with Andrew, then your sponsor might drop you, your agent might drop you, your tour gets canceled. So it's a constant
So
battle.
the agent drops you, presumably on the same basis, where it says, look, I've had pressure from my other clients. If I keep you, they're going across the road.
Yeah,
that is a shocking form of blackmail. That
absolutely. Either the agent believes it themselves, or yes, the agent has other clients who would say.
This is why I love Boy George. Right, Boy George, not Jewish, quite strong. He says that he made a bit of music which praised some of the Jews and the issues that they faced following the attack by Hamas. And one of his artistic agents said, I'm not going to have anything to do with that piece of music. So Boy George said, fine, you're fired, right? And that's what I would do. I reverse the firing. I'm sick and tired of oppressive media types who basically think they can make money out of your talents, but actually aren't prepared to cut you some slack when those very talents show themselves in a political way, which you find uncomfortable, right? Piss off would be my general attitude towards them. And I'm so pleased that Boy George has done it. And he paid a big price, because actually his manager said that I have taken Boy George out of the firing line by not giving him the King Herod job at the Palladium, which he was due to do. I don't believe that happened at all. I reckon the other way it happened was that the manager got a quiet word from the Palladium saying, look, do us a favour. We don't want the complaints outside the Palladium. Do us a favour. Just can you stand him down or something? It saves us having to do it. And people should be. They are what they are. If you're from the left, nobody says a word, do they?
No.
Nobody. Everyone says a word. So if somebody in the Palladium cast decides who are doing an Andrew Lloyd Webber musical, Jesus Christ Superstar, right now, if there's somebody in the cast decides to make a bit of music praising the Muslims, that's great, right? That's great. Nobody says a word about, oh, that's caused us a problem, you've got to go. You do it once the other side, and suddenly your career is in jeopardy. It is absolutely wrong. I can't understand what is actually happening here. Okay, fine. Well, this is very interesting, by the way. I was kind of learning about the inside of it. So one of the interesting aspects is that since you've come here, you seem to have found a lot of work. What's going on?
Well, I mean, no, these shows have been in the pipeline for a while. I mean, the December one has just been added, 17th of December with Andrew Lawrence in Southampton, because we sold out the one this week. Now,
do you have to have fresh material for both shows?
Well, that's a good question. Sometimes the shows are billed as a WIP, work in progress, like the one for this Saturday. Which means it gives you license to experiment and to have some fresh material. Because fresh material, the upside is that it's fresh, but the downside is that maybe it's not quite there yet.
Or it doesn't work.
Or it doesn't work. And again, you have to address that. Obviously, if I'm doing 1 hour this Saturday, for example, I can't do 1 hour of fresh material, because then you feel maybe people feel shortchanged, because they also want some classics. And again, people are different, because some people like to hear the good oldies, or a bit of them at least. They don't mind hearing something that they have seen on YouTube now live. Actually, they appreciate it. But understandably, they might also want some new material, because if they have seen all of it already on YouTube.
How much would the average person pay in Southampton to hear your gags?
I think this gig is about 16 or 18 pounds.
Yeah, so that's great.
It's reasonably priced.
Well,
I would
to
say.
be honest with you, you'd be very lucky to get. I don't know. Would you in Southampton? Would you get 2 pints for that?
Roundabout,
yeah. You know, so you're not. You know, this is just a bit of fun. How long will it last? 2 hours then, will it?
2 hours, yes.
Okay, fine. Do you think an hour is a long time to listen to your gags, by the way? I don't want to be rude.
Well, I hope not.
An hour is a long time. That is a lot of material.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of material.
Yeah, I mean, I have material, thankfully. I'm quite prolific. I'm flattered that many of my peers say I come up with a lot of new material.
Oh, right, okay.
But of course, it's a different pace. Maybe you need to do a little bit of crowd work at the beginning, which I'm not too good at. So that's also a nice challenge for me.
What do you call crowd work then? How does that work?
Crowd work is when you start the show by saying, "Okay, how is everybody? Where are you from?" You interact with people.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah,
maybe you have a bit of banter.
And that's right. And then you say, "Is that your husband? What does he do for a living?"
Yeah.
And then you do that. Nicholas, I've got to go. And you've got to go, but thank you so much. Actually,
thank you,
very
Kelvin.
interesting. I love the way that you managed to get your gags in and everything. Nicholas DeSando, every time you hear he's in the area, go and watch him for 16 to 18 quid. It'll be the best, night and the cheapest night you've had for years. Thank you very much. This is Kelvin MacKenzie saying farewell, and I'll see you tomorrow.